Is ICE deporting Black Americans in Chicago? This is the Glamorous Gazette, where the headlines meet the group chat. We cover the need to knows, the did y'all see this moments, and everything shaping Black American society with clarity and a little editorial side eye. Let's get into it.
By ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
They just treated us like we were nothing.
Patricia Fisher said she came out to the hallway of her apartment complex on the corner of 75th and South Shore Drive in her nightgown around 10 Monday night, only to find ICE agents yelling police.
It was scary because I've never had a gun put in my face. They asked my name and my date of birth and asked me did I have any warrants, and I told them no, I didn't.
She says she was then handcuffed and released around 3 a.m. Fisher says she was told if anyone had any kind of warrant out for them, even if it was unrelated to immigration, they would not be released. Citizen App video shows the chaotic scene overnight. Trucks and military-style vans were used to separate parents from their children. Other neighbors say they saw agents destroying property to get in the building.
And they had a big 15-inch chainsaw with a round blade on it cutting this fence down. We're under siege. We're being invaded by our own military.
The FBI did confirm this morning that they did help the U.S. Border Patrol carry out a targeted immigration enforcement operation in this area, and they say they have been supporting these efforts at the direction of the U.S. Attorney General.
So that is the headline that has everybody talking. Is ICE in Chicago swooping up Black Americans? And the first thing I need to ask is this even true? And did it even go down like that? Because if you don't know, Chicago is a part of the resistance against Trump, the Republicans, and really anybody who is not communist, progressive, or a socialist, or now they're calling themselves democratic socialists. So in this area, you have a motley crew of various types of people. You have new arrivals, aka the migrants. You have long-term immigrants. You also have melanated people. You have Black Americans, and all of these people, not all, but a sizable majority of these people have an interest in not supporting ICE and deportations. And so typically when you see one of us, you be like, okay, I know given the climate right now and how immigration has affected us, most Black Americans, we ain't gonna be on camera, or we might just not say anything. So you have to ask, who are these people who would get on camera and make such a big scene? The first lady that we saw, she kind of looked a little bit alternative to me. And there also is a sizable homosexual community of all ethnicities in Chicago. It's like one of the main, I want to say, headquarters next to San Francisco. Chicago was a place. So a lot of those, not a lot, but a lot of those, well, yeah, a lot of the Black people in that community kind of align with other quote unquote liberal policies. And so they are kind of supporting, and they're also against Trump and just the idea of Trump. So, you just kind of have to question the source. And then the second lady, with the head wrap on, and not to disrespect her, I mean, who knows? ICE could have came in the wee hours of the afternoon when she was in between things. So who knows why, her appearance was like that. But just phenotypically, I'm not sure if that is one of us, which kind of leads me to my next thought. Are these even Black Americans? And yes, we must ask in 2025 because you don't know who these people are. We've had migrations of melanated foreigners for quite some while now, and they can be second and even third, fourth generation, and even in the fourth generation, they still will side with mass immigration, whether it's legal or otherwise, because a lot of them kind of still want their relatives to come on through. And then another point is that according to censusreporter.org, I don't know how they collect their data, but I kind of tend to believe some of it. They're saying that 21% of the population in Chicago is foreign born. And so that's almost a quarter, 20, almost 25% or one fourth. And then of that percentage, 5% are from Africa, and that would give them almost 70,000 African immigrants. And then you also have, of the 21% of the foreign born population, 52% are from Latin America, and that typically includes the Caribbean. And so, yeah, y'all, we got to ask, are these Black Americans who are making these reports, when you have that amount, and that's just people who are foreign born, that's not to say who are the children of these people and what happened, where their children are. And like I said, third generation, fourth generation, they still side with mass immigration, and they really feel very close to that. And I mean, also in Chicago, there are a lot of benefits for immigrants in Chicago. Like, Chicago is not the city that people seem to put, they think of this as this black city with, or a Midwestern metropolis of people who've been in the country for like 200 years, if they're foreigners or just Black Americans. It's very diverse. It's people from all over the world, and they have a lot of benefits. Like I said, it's actually, I would say right now, it is the center of communism in the United States, which they branded as progressivism. And now they're just moving to more of the quote unquote democratic socialist type of ideology, where they've kind of commandeered the resources and they've been redistributing it to immigrants of all the various communities. So a lot of the people, and if even not immigrants, if you are a part of the homosexual community, or what other communities do they have? Whatever other communities are out there that get money, a lot of these nonprofits, they fund a lot of that. So those people are somewhat in solidarity and have decided that the immigration piece, because a lot of the people, even if you're not immigrants, as you've seen with the migrant crisis, they're making money. So, you don't know who's who, and 70,000 is a lot of people. And that's just people who are from somewhere else. That's not even counting their offspring. Another reason why you have to ask, are those people who were talking to the news reporters Black Americans, is because there is a sizable portion of businesses that are called quote unquote Black businesses that are actually African owned in Chicago. I'm looking right now at the Google Maps, and I did a search, African Chicago, and all around Chicago, these businesses that, boast their country of origin. And I want you to note that even though they get lumped in with Black, none of their businesses say Black. We have Senegalese, Ayanzi, the Royal Africana, African cuisine. I don't know what that is. That one, and Abusua, Ianzi Bronze. Oh, okay. So it looks like this is a franchise. You see, they have a lot of opportunities. They've been creating franchises in their South Side African and these areas. And so I don't think there are too many on the far South Side, but definitely on the North Side. So people are making their way from the North Side. The North Side of Chicago is kind of known for having a lot of Africans. The South Side has a pretty decent Caribbean population. And as far as the Africans, they are making themselves known so much to the point that they have their own day that Mayor Brandon Johnson has recognized.
Is back for its 35th year after it was canceled last year.
Organizers from Africa International House said they decided to take a year off to cut costs and hopefully create an even better festival for this year. So today is actually the last day to attend that event, which is held in Washington Park. Joining us now is Patrick Woodtor, founder and executive director of Africa International House USA. Patrick, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to get right into it. I understand you had to skip the festival last year, but how has it been to be back in Washington Park since Saturday?
Feels good. It feels great, and it's a great day to be out there in the sun. 78 degrees feels good in Washington Park, and we are inviting all of Chicago to come and enjoy this wonderful event that's been going on for 35 good years. Come and register to be part of the drawing for Ethiopian Airlines ticket to wherever they go.
How have the crowds been this year, considering you had to cancel last year? Have you seen the return of the crowds, or has it been, kind of how's it been overall?
It's been a little bit slow, but we hope today will be much better with SOS Band performing, and we hope all of Chicago listening will come out and enjoy this wonderful event and encourage us and support us to continue to bring it to Chicago.
Patrick, we've been watching some video from the festival, and there are so many different activities and artisans who are out there, musicians. Can you sort of give us a rundown of everything that folks can experience when they do attend the festival?
It's a wonderful event to be at. You can come to the Drum Village and sample drumming and get to play with the drummers, master drummers out there. We have a spiritual garden, African spiritual garden, where you can do some divinations or reading. Then you have the children pavilion, where family come and enjoy the festival. You have quilting. The food court is one of the most popular areas to be in. Of course, we have a main stage, and around 8:30 today will be SOS Band, and we're inviting people to come and support us.
I know you have a drum village, too, which is so cool. This has been going on now, as we mentioned, for 35 years. Why do you think it's such a staple and a beloved tradition for the community?
Chicago South has a great area to support the culture. They are cultural people, and they love this event. It's actually their event. Anytime there's some interruption, they get really upset. Like in 1994, we took it to the Field Museum, and people were really upset. We had to bring it back on the south side. So it's owned and supported by our community, our own people, because the businesses are what drives the economics of our culture.
Patrick, one thing I don't think we've touched on this year, or this year, is that it actually has a theme. What is that theme?
It's called Were Rock, which comes from the Bambara tribe of Mali. It means the rebirth, return, or regeneration, and we chose that because we are coming out, hopefully, to build a better future.
Lovely. Patrick Woodtor, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, the festival runs until 10 o'clock tonight.
But the Africans are not the only ones letting their presence be known. The Caribbeans also are doing a lot of business in Chicago. I did the same thing that I did for the African businesses. I went on Google Maps and I decided to look up Caribbean Chicago, and we have the Garifuna, a taste of Belize, jerk chicken of Chicago. Now, I thought the jerk chicken was a Jamaican thing, but I don't know. I don't really eat that food. Mr. B's Caribbean, 3D's jerk chicken, Caribbean. And I want you to notice that none of these things say black. So for the people who are still in the back of the room, this idea of black and blackness, that we have to change our identity because they're black. They're actually not black. As you've seen, they have their own proclamation proclaiming Africa Day. They put Caribbean all throughout their businesses to signal that this is for us, this is its own thing. So we do have to question the publication saying that black people are getting rounded up by ICE and trying to scare us, when I'm showing you right here there are a lot of Africans and Caribbeans in the city of Chicago. The Caribbeans also have their own carnival, the Chicago Caribbean Carnival, and here they are with all of their garb and looks. And here's their vision statement. Our vision is to educate, inspire, and generate growth by providing opportunities for all to come together and celebrate the Caribbean culture, not the Black American culture, not the Negro culture, not the Black culture, not the African American culture, the Caribbean culture. And I must emphasize this because there is this conversation about who is Black and oh my God, they're saying that they're Black, so we have to change our name to hashtags and acronyms when they do business, they are Caribbeans because this is the long-term game. People being occasionally Black when it suits them is not something they're tied to. And so you can see here they have their costumes on, and here they are. These people are in Chicago or in Chicagoland. And you can see they have the Belizeans. I recognize the Jamaica, the Haitian flag. I don't know what that other flag is. And they're outside and they're in the city. And it looks like they need to update this website. But anywho, you can get a gist. I also wanted to go on here so that you could take a closer look at what they look like. This is the executive director, Patricia Gordon. This is Jackie Omare. And this is China Castillo. And this is Kamaya Wentworth. So these are the phenotypes. Now, some of these people, I don't know what their makeup is. They could be part Black American or they could be just full Caribbeans. But these women, if you did not see them or talk to them or know their last names, you might assume that these are Black Americans. And so I really want to emphasize this. This is important for us to take a look at or take note at this moment because we have a lot against us right now. The Trump administration is engaged in some very dangerous propaganda, of which I will be addressing coming up. We also have people who are using propaganda against us as a commodity. So we really must be very clear on who's who. And I want the older people to understand things have changed because a lot of y'all kind of go into your same circles. And I don't know if you've noticed the change in who's who. These are not Black Americans. And then the younger people, they don't really have a frame of reference. Younger to me is, let's see, I'm a millennial. Let's see, X, Y, Z. So I guess Generation Z. And I think the next one is they started over and now it's the Alphas. They don't really have a frame of reference of what Black America was like before these people. So they don't know that these people were never blending in trying to emulate us. Like this is a new phenomenon and there's an economic driver behind it. But anywho, this is the Caribbean Day Festival. So as you can tell, when you start to have festivals in an area, that means you are rooted in the area. They have a sizable business community and they are there. But business ownership is one thing. You then have to ask where you live. Now, the new thing for people when they are trying to relocate, they go online into forums and ask questions. So I'm on reddit.com and someone posed a question, where do I find the Caribbean people in Chicago? Looking to move to Chicago and wondering if there are a significant populations of Caribbean, African, Central American people and stores in the city, mostly hoping to find ways to go to events, make acquaintances, friends, but also find my ethnic, I think they meant ethnic foods. And so someone had replied, Evanston and East West Rogers Park, Haitian, Jamaican, and Trinidad, west side of Chicago, in and around Humboldt Park, Puerto Ricans. Now that was interesting because when did Puerto Ricans start getting lumped in with the Caribbeans? I mean, they are Caribbeans, but they typically say like they're Latinos. But in my little research on here, I noticed that the Puerto Ricans have kind of lumped themselves in with the greater Caribbean community, which is not something that I've seen. And not that I'm that familiar with Puerto Rican people. I know there are a lot of them in New York, so maybe they do that in New York too. I have no clue. But I typically, when we think about Caribbeans, I rarely think of the Puerto Ricans of African descent or melanated Puerto Ricans. They also went on to answer the question. You will find they are spread out as well to suburbs and throughout Chicago. Dominicans are not a huge population if you're seeking a specific group. Interestingly, they are mostly congregated in the East coastal areas. Another person had replied. They said, yeah, most of my African friends, Nigerian, Ghanaian, Congolese, and Cameroonian, live on the north side around Rogers Park in Uptown. Some live in the Loop too. I suggest looking up events and trying to meet people that way. Like there's a nice African arts festival in the summer that attracts a lot of Africans. I think we just saw that in the clip. If you search Afrofusion events on Eventbrite, you'll find a lot of nightlife stuff for the Afrobeats Piano crowd. Now, this is like an inside joke with me and my friend. We'd be like, oh my God, when you want to go somewhere, as soon as it say Afrobeats, you already know, like that's the new code word. That means that the people, the Africans are there, and oh my gosh, Afrobeats. I don't know why they don't just say African. Like, they really are like trying to get away from this African word. Now it's the Afrobeats. Anywho, another person replied, in Rogers Park, we have Caribbean and African, East and West restaurants and grocers. They got their own food, y'all. And at least one Caribbean barbershop. Posters everywhere for events, especially in places on Howard. Definitely check out the scene up here on the north side. Another person had noted that there isn't a significant Caribbean population. There is a pretty sizable African population in the north of the areas, or North City, in areas like Uptown, Rogers Park, Edgewater, and West Ridge. Also on the south side in areas like South Chicago and South Shore, but still less than those other areas mentioned. And so that is important because the video news clip that I had played initially, that raid had happened in South Shore, and there also was a raid, I want to say, in the Bronzeville area, which is just a few blocks north of South Shores. Or actually, is South Shore a part of Bronzeville? I don't know. I kind of consider them like two very different areas, but anywho, it's on the south side of Chicago. So as you can see from the different feedback, it's kind of known that the Africans live on the north side, but there are people in South Shore. So that goes back to the original question, is ICE rounding up Black people? And I mean, I don't know, I'm not there to be honest, so I can't really do a fact check. But I think that when ICE goes to places, they're getting reports from people. It would be in a city like Chicago, you can't just go and just see a melanated person and assume that they're an immigrant. Someone is tipping them off. It's also important to note that in South Shore, the alderman, I want to say his name is Desmond Yancey, who is of Haitian descent. He boasted that most of the migrants were sent in his district, which is South Shore. And so he packed the migrants there, that he was putting them in housing. I think he was hoping to get some of that money that Mayor Brandon Johnson and those other melanated mayors who were leading those progressive cities and those progressive policies. Remember last year, was that the year before last, when they had went to Washington, D.C. and they had tried to hit a lick, and they were like, we want what did they want? Like, was it $5 billion or some astronomical amount, because they had all of the quote unquote migrants and refugees, and they were demanding for federal funding to help them. And so Desmond Yancey had decided that he was going to get the most in South Shore and like put them all here, probably hoping so he can get some funds per head. And it actually didn't work out like that. And if you recall the various videos, you can just go on YouTube and just search Black Americans, immigrants, Chicago, and a whole bunch of stuff will come up. But they were hosting meetings. I know somebody had in Washington Park, which is, let's see, that is west of South Shore. I think they did a lawsuit because they were trying to turn one of the schools into a shelter. So I know the Black Americans in South Shore were ticked off by all these immigrants. And another thing, and not just immigrants, but illegal aliens being posed as migrants. And another thing about South Shore is that South Shore was really starting to clean itself up, and the businesses were coming in and the residents were kind of enthused, like, especially in this era of Black business, people were really trying to revive these areas because South Shore is a lakefront property. And a lot of those people who are in those condos, those are Black Americans who own that lakefront property, as well as the houses and the bungalows. But there are still Caribbeans there. So the fact that this person mentions South Shore and we've seen on the map, I am inclined to think that the news media is reporting Black people, and then you have people on social media, they're coming to get Black Americans. We told you this would happen. I believe that they're trying to scare us and trying to get us involved in this battle, which has nothing to do with us. As we've already seen, the Black people were asking for ICE to come because I'll have to do a whole thing on that. But the whole Chicago migrant crisis was it was a slap in the face. It was just, I don't even know if it was a slap in the face. It was more like getting hit by a car. They knocked you over, then they backed it up again, and then just drove over you. Like they really did. Brandon Johnson and all the leadership of Chicago did Black Chicago hella dirty. Like it was just, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. And it just, like I was saying, the people, they were trying to build up the South Side, and they were making a lot of progress. And so anyway, South Shore, yeah, they are the people, the Caribbeans, the Africans, and a lot of the Hispanics are definitely in South Shore. And just to give my personal observations, when I was in Chicago, the first time I went to Chicago, I was greeted and I met people who were Caribbean. They were, I want to say, they were Jamaican, and they were lovely people. Had they not told me that they were Jamaican, I would not have known that they were Jamaican. They fit like right in, and the hospitality was just very warm and fuzzy. I had met another person. She was like a quarter Jamaican, and she's probably in her 50s. So I know the Jamaicans have been out there from my personal experience. Also, I've been to Chicago several times. I stayed out there for a brief moment, but you see their flags. I seen Haitian flags, and I was on the South Side, and so I know that there are quite a bit of them there, kind of in the midst. And so they are there. I think they're there multi-generation, but I think this flood, what happened during the migrant crisis, people were talking about the Venezuelans, but it was also a sizable influx of Haitians. So yeah, they were outside and they were there. And I also, I hadn't been to Chicago in a couple of years, but I had been watching. It's a place that I was considering relocating before the migrant crisis, because I'm just not gonna be able to do it. But I was on Instagram and I had came across this video just by happenstance, wasn't even looking at it, and this young woman was having this dialogue kind of admonishing black people.
And, oh, don't invite me to your crib if you live on 79th and Colfax, or you live. Somebody got on here and made a video saying, oh, don't invite me to your crib if you live on 79th and Colfax, or you live on 63rd and King Drive. And people in the comments talking about, I don't even go past Hyde Park. I don't even go past Bronzeville. Not too much. What I want to know is why y'all feel so comfortable talking smack about the West Side, talking smack about the far South Side, when all the things that you like and enjoy and commodify about being black and from Chicago stem from those places. You think that we got this lingo from where? Hyde Park? Like, be serious. Everything that you like about Chicago, all the stuff that y'all think is cool and this, that, and the third about the culture, it comes from the hundreds. It comes from the far South Side, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. It comes from out west where the streets don't have numbers. And then somebody in the comments has nerve say, oh, if the streets got numbers on them, I'm not even going over there. I'm not going nowhere past 50. You're not going nowhere past being a loser, a lame, a goofy, a Buford. Like, don't y'all understand that type of rhetoric is rooted in anti-blackness? Like, be so serious about yourself, bro. When black folks came to Chicago, what sides of the city did they go to? Where was that culture born and raised at? The far South Side and the West Side. If your people are from up north, it's because they moved there. Ask them where they're originally from. I get it, it's jokes. Like, I talk crazy about the West Side all the time because I'm from the far South Side, but like, some of y'all are serious. That's the thing I don't like. Some of y'all are serious and you're trying to get your jokes off and it's not funny. And I get it. Okay, people are like, oh, it's not safe. That's why I'm saying that. First of all, it's a lot of places that are not safe, anywhere in the city and anywhere in the world. So be serious about the stuff that you're saying being rooted in anti-blackness. And if you really think that the far South Side is, oh, it's this, that, and the third, you don't like it, oh, you don't like out west, I don't want to hear y'all doing it. I don't want to see y'all juking. I don't want to see y'all bobbing. I don't want to see y'all footworking. I don't want to see y'all bopping. I don't want to see y'all at the rink. I don't want to see y'all using any of that slang. No phoneme, no folksname, no G, no hear none of that, bro. You lost your Chicago card. Move. Somebody.
Now, you would think the way that she is just really passionate about her argument that she is a Black American. This is not a Black American, y'all. This is a Nigerian. And I knew something was off when I was listening to her because, first of all, a Black American would not be surprised that, or would not have an issue with going on the South Side or even the far South Side because they're likely over there. And so I was just picking up like, where are you from? Then she has the septum ring. Shout out to the guy. I can't think of his name, but he's a writer and he created this this thing called septum ring theory about how people with these melanated women with these septum rings always have like this kind of liberal alternative and activist type of vibe. And I think he even said like they kind of like hate men, and I don't know if that's her vibe, but it's just funny that she had a septum ring, and you'll see on her page why I say that. But anyways, you would have thought that this girl was just like a Black American, but like I was saying, she was talking, and I just heard this nuance like, that's something that a North Sider would say. So I had decided that I would go on her page, and when I went on her page, let's see, what's today? Today is October the 3rd, 2025. So I think I had made this comment sometime in July of 2025. And I had made a comment and I had said that seeing that this content creator has a Nigerian flag in her bio and Africans live on the North Side, this is not a Black, aka Black American issue. This is something an African would say about Black areas to another African. The whole dialogue just kind of stuck with me because, first of all, I was taken back like, what are you doing on the far South Side? It's known that Africans are on the North Side, but I was also taken back at her mannerisms, her speaking for Black people, quote unquote, her not like disclosing that she's a Nigerian person, which is, at least when I was out there, I didn't really see any of them. So I'm like, where did you come from? Is it a lot of y'all? But it was a perplexing moment. But apparently I wasn't the only one feeling some sort of way about her comments about Bronzeville, because she had also mentioned like all the culture comes from the far South Side, like from the 60s to the hundreds. And it's like, okay, you're missing people on the low end, which is actually the beginning of Bronzeville. I want to say it starts like in the 30th blocks, where a lot of great Black American talent was. You had Ida B. Wells was over there, Louis Armstrong, and so much Black history happened actually north of 50th Street in that area. You had the Savoy. I want to say Ella Fitzgerald stayed out there at some time. You had, what's the guy, the jazz singer? Unforgettable. Nat King Cole. It's late, so sorry, my mind is moving, but I wanted to get this video out because my mind is moving kind of slow, but I wanted to do this video side note because I already was going to be talking about crime in Chicago and how they keep trying to equate it to Black people. And I'm like, Black people are not really the majority in Chicago. And I had been wanting to talk about this, as you can see from my interaction with Naira back in July. So I was already going to do a video, but now that this is looking like this might be a trending topic, I want to hop on. But it is late, and so I'm probably going to start and slur my words. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, and I am the tangent queen, so just ride the wave with me. Anywho, so I wasn't the only one feeling some sort of a way about what she said because it was a historical. All the history did not come from the far south side, and far south side is like Roseland and Pullman, and so somebody from named Mike M. Effin Love, and I think I went on his page and he like has his own podcast, but he's an older Black man, but he had to come through. He said the low end of Chicago has entered the chat, baby, Black woman voice, from Roosevelt to 55th with like a word, Record Road, Bronzeville, the Ickies, the Taylors, Stateway. You cannot speak on Black Chicago culture and exclude the low end. And then someone else came in, Hyde Park been Black. Yeah, and Hyde Park has a sizable Black population. It's not all Black, it's actually more of a mixed thing, but it was a lot of Black people whenever I frequented. And Hyde Park is the city over, I think, did Barack Obama live in Hyde Park or in Kenwood? I don't remember, but anywho, Hyde Park, there are Black people there. And someone else, oh, he came back and he was like, exactly, this was actually a thread. I didn't record all of it, but he said exactly, the low end is Chicago Black history. And it is. That's what I was saying. You know, Ida B. Wells, she was a major figure, but that whole era, there are so many greats, Gwendolyn Brooks, and it's just so many people. And then someone else came in and said Black people weren't allowed to live in Pullman when it was created. It was designed to be a white company town. Even the Black people working for the railroad lived on the low end. And that's exactly correct. The Pullman porters, they let a small group of Black men become porters on the train, and or servants, or I don't know what to call them, but stewards. And they were able to make money, and they also were able to get intel. You know, the white people on the trains would be giving, you know, doing business and making deals, and they would be telling what's going on or if trouble was coming, and then they would send that information to newspapers such as the Chicago Defender. And I want to say at one point the Chicago Defender newspaper was banned in some areas in the South, and the Pullman porters would smuggle the Chicago Defender and other newspapers on their route. So they were not allowed to be in Pullman. And actually, to date, Pullman is a mixed race. Well, I don't know what it looks like now, but it was a few years ago a mixed race town. There were a lot of white people. And actually, when I had visited that area, because it's like a historic district, and to see that history, I remember seeing oh my God, I remember seeing there were signs saying Black people and white people work together, call ICE. This was several years ago. This was almost a decade ago. So I know this whole thing with immigration is a thing. But anywho, Miss Naira, she lived there, but yeah, they got her together in the comments. And so this is Naira in her African garb, wearing her dress and repping her culture. But you see, she wasn't doing that just a second ago. And I'm honing in on her. And if she ever comes across this, it's nothing against you personally, but you right now are becoming an archetype of this thing that is in our community that is causing confusion. And you are really symbolic, like your whole thing. And I don't know if it was just must have been a divine moment for me just to encounter, because I would have never gone on your page. I don't know who you are, but your whole jush and get up is exactly a part of the problem that we are having right now as Black Americans. You are a Nigerian, you have your outfit, and you go in and out of this Black thing when you have a whole culture. And so this is another post of hers. Firstborn in an African household is giving you advice. And then over here, it says Nigerian parents, first gen. So she is a first gen Nigerian. And the problem I had with her post is, once again, she's trying to admonish Black people. You're not even Black. And then you did it wrong because you're not Black. You don't know the history. If you knew the history, you would know that Black people were actually stuck in the South Side. It's the only place they were able to go. So it wouldn't be they wouldn't be afraid to go to a Roseland. They probably have family, or Chatham or Auburn, Gresham, or the West Side, or any of those areas. It just shows that you're not a part of our community, but you're doing all of the, our body language, and you've been studying our colloquialisms, like really trying to embody us. But then the next day you're in your Nigerian garb, talking about your experience as a first gen. And all I need you to do is stay on your side over there and be who you are, which is not someone like me. And I'm older than you, so I would never really address you, but I'm doing this too for the younger people who may encounter you, to understand that you are having a different experience. And so this is another video of her. So today she calls herself Naira, or is it Naira Bills? But yesterday she was somebody else.
What's up, y'all? My name is Chima. I'm Naira Ikoro. Naira spelled Naira. Year after year, Black and brown underprivileged folks have to show y'all our scars.
So her name is really Chima. And she was leading with her Chima-ness as back as at least in 2016. And she was Chima Naira Ikoro. I don't know how to spell that, but now she's just Naira. And this is this game that people are playing, and I can't fault her too much because we've kind of allowed them to do that, to kind of pity pat. I would just prefer them to be who they are, which is not me. And it's important to note this date when she was Chima, because remember, you had the Chimamandi making all these comments about Blackness, and really kind of a confrontational stance against, white people. And not that I'm defending white people, but my issue with white people and your issue with white people are like two different things. And then the way they talk to the white people and like really instigate stuff to no end, it's like it's very messy, and we end up having to be accountable for a lot of that. And I just remember that era of these people just saying the most crazy stuff, and then in the name of Blackness, then they switch back, oh, I'm a Nigerian, when it's time for accountability. So if you recall, in 2016, this was during the height of the foreign flag, I have a culture era, and she was proudly Chima. And so now in 2025, we're in the delineation and mass deportation era. She's now Naira Bills. And she removed the flag. So, this is a game that they do. And so once again, if anyone sees this, this is not personal to her. She's like an artistic person, and she's like fits the melanated box of like the Urban Outfitters type of vibe. So I'm not upset with her. And actually, I agreed with 70% of some of her stuff that she has politically wise. It's just the problem is that you're not a Black American. And you don't have to be a Black American. She should lead with I'm a Nigerian in Chicago. And as a Chicago resident, this is what I think about Africans. But she wanted to cloak that critique of Africans from the North Side in Blackness. And I have a problem with that. Whenever there's an issue with her people, okay, they want to hide it under Blackness. But you clearly have a separate identity. She called herself a first generation African or Nigerian, not a first generation Black. So it's our responsibility to gatekeep Blackness and any other name we decide to call ourselves. But regardless of what you call yourself, you better call her what she is, which is a Nigerian. That's more of my thesis statement. Make sure you call them what they are. See, I like to call them what they call one another. And so this is important that I want to bring up since we're having this discussion about Chicago and immigrants. Are they Black? I just want you to see this is who's living in Chicago in 2025. Okay, I think she's 25. And so this is who your children, this is her with this is who they gonna be. You know, this is who they're dealing with. And these people be all over the place. And so, like I said, I don't have a problem with her personally. As far as being a resident, like I know residents that I live with, live next to, they are not Black Americans, but we have shared interest in being in a community. Like one issue in my community that we have is people are always trying to build next to us. And myself and the pale skins, white people who speak English, what we have in common is we don't want no more development. And so we be in solidarity against that. Okay. And so I would not have a problem with her as a Nigerian existing as her Nigerian self, but do not invoke the Black box. So for the young people, I want you to know this is not okay. And if you ever see somebody like this, just let them know kindly. Please do not speak on behalf of Black people. You know, you're a Nigerian, you have your own identity. We would just prefer to have conversations amongst ourselves the same way that you do. And the reason why I would never really confront her with this is because this is a conversation that we're having amongst ourselves. Another thing that has to happen is that since they're hiding in Blackness, we need to take them from out of the shadows. It should have been a lot of comments questioning and saying, hey, there is a sizable African and Caribbean population in Chicago. So we need to be more vocal to make sure that we are not the face of the great opposition and aligning with things that really are irrelevant to us. Whether or not you agree with mass deportation or not, it's really not a Black American issue. And like I said, we have so much against us right now, and this is a very heated climate, almost like none I've ever seen. So we really need to keep our name out of people's mouth, whether it's the news media trying to drag us in. Like, it should be way more comments about that. And so this is another article that I had seen earlier this year. The Haitian American African Immigrant Organizations in Chicago push back against Trump's travel ban. And it goes to what I just said. They are in the resistance against the government of the United States. And they have resources to fight and be the resistance, and they can go home. We ain't got nowhere to go. So we need to move with tact. And like I said, this really ain't our business. If anything, you need to be calling ICE and leveraging this opportunity. If your community got flooded with a bunch of illegal aliens who are not legally authorized to be here, this may be the only time in history where you can just make a phone call and they actually come. Better do that than have to be physically removing people and getting into fights on the streets. Like, we really need to take this moment seriously, because I recall the Biden-Harris administration. I ain't never seen nothing like that either. So we need to do what we have to do. And then even more than that, like I said, the Trump administration, they own boogeyman. They in they boogeyman era. They are really I don't even know what to say. I'm gonna have to do a whole nother video on that, and I do want to address that. But so anyway, let me move on to my final thoughts here. And so my final thoughts is question everybody. Check the paperwork. I'm telling y'all, these people, especially the last 5 years, and I was pondering with the whole DEI thing, and all of this stuff with these people becoming black all of a sudden, like we just seen with Chima Naira Ikoro, who now is Naira Bills. In 2016, these people were proud of their flags. But what happened is post the George Floyd uprisings, the DEI, which had already kind of existed, got really amplified, and companies had money for the black box. And it was no longer just DEI, generic minorities and women. It was black. And so these people who had their foreign flags decided, ooh, it's money in this black stuff. And if you recall, post the George Floyd uprising, when people were having this pseudo racial reckoning, the money was flowing. But I remember seeing on social media when they would have calls for whether it's artists or scholars that have money or positions, it would be a bunch of foreign names under the things like, hey, me. And so the reason why I don't, well, there are several reasons why I don't really address foreigners like that. Number one, to be honest, it's quite beneath me, and it's really beneath all of us. Understanding our posture, like the work is really within our community. They're doing what they're allowed to do because we have a misunderstanding. We need to protect our name and our image. Whether or not you agree with black as a term, it's a label that has been affixed to our group. These other people have labels affixed to their group. They're using our labels, our identity, and likeness in instigating tensions in our name and likeness. And we really need to be careful in this time. So this rhetoric about ICE is picking up black Americans, well, I'll raise them one. What if ICE is picking up black Americans? What if there has to be a little collateral damage? Not that I desire it to be so, but this is going to hurt some people's feelings. But I just have to say it. We have to take some responsibility for our communities and how this illegal immigration got out of hand. I watched it in my hometown, which I haven't lived in 20 years, but nobody went to city council when they decided to change it into a sanctuary city. It was a few white people, and nobody said anything when they were giving these people IDs. We weren't there. All across the country, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I heard people before the Biden administration, oh, well, we ain't California, we the South, and this, that, and the third, da, 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 da. Well, in North Carolina, the U.S. aid hearings, your legislators was up in there fighting the federal government to keep their illegal aliens and keep giving them that U.S. aid money because they need workers to replace you. So we have to be honest. We did not push back, and we had the opportunity to do it. So unfortunately, it might have to be a few L's taken to get some of this under control. And like I said, not that I hope that it is, but if it is a few black Americans that get hemmed up for a few minutes, if we can get these people up out of here and send a message, like, unfortunately, that may have to be what it is. And not that I want it. The lesson to be taken is that we need to get civically involved. Like, everybody is squabbing. This is a time for you to get off the couch. And I abhor these deplorable beings who tell people we sitting at home and on the couch. You are a fool. And please scroll and click away from me. We are not on the couch on this channel. Okay, and if you gonna be sitting down taking a quick break, you better be reading and getting an understanding of what is going on. No, we need to be civically engaged as all these things are moving at your local level and city council. But most importantly, even beyond that, we all need to be fighting against this propaganda where people keep using our names and, oh, well, Black Americans. No, Black Americans ain't nothing. Okay. And we need to be very aggressive in that by any means necessary, because that's how we get maligned and this hostility towards us. I mean, people are going to be hostile anyway, but there's just an extra layer. People are getting desperate in this hour, and anti-Black hatred is a commodity that people are profiting off of, whether it's these melanated YouTubers acting like they Black, like they comment section should be lit. It should be all sorts of things. So a lot of what I hope to do is enlighten my audience and to hopefully give you some talking points and some understanding of what is going on, like I did today, and for us to not be passive, like this passivity, this thing that we had. And I'm going into a whole tangent. This is supposed to be my final thoughts, but this whole thing that we've had about, I'm gonna just hold my head down and mind my business and stay out the white folks' way. What white folks? Who? They're gone. The white folks of the 60s, the 50s, the 30s, they're dead and gone. You got red dots on national TV critiquing the pale-skinned people who speak English. You got a Mexican dude who just radicalized an Anglo to shoot another Anglo. Like, what white people's, whose way are you staying out of? No. We need to be taking control of our narrative and our identity and of our cities. That is what we need to do in this moment. So, anywho, my final thoughts is, like I said, if it's collateral damage, I hope that it's not. Make sure you stay prayed up. And, I hope not. And I really don't know because I'm not there. But I don't trust the media with respect to this issue. From what I seen, watching all that Chicago stuff, and from what I know from real Black Americans, people ain't got no problem with ICE. Like, whatever you got to do, a little inconvenience, as long as you get them out of here. Okay, and get us our money back. But calling is not enough. After you've called and they're gone, looking at the city budget is the next thing. Filing the lawsuits, which takes a lot of work. But even if you can't get to a lawsuit, at least filing a complaint. So we'll be talking about stuff like that on my channel. This is actually supposed to be like a quarter of my content, but I do feel like a portal has opened up where Black people are actually trying to get an understanding. And I think because so many different things have happened, I'm willing to change course a bit to address or at least give my opinion and my point of view on some of these things and my insights, because I do have insights coming from California, and not saying coming from California because we are better than anyone. I say coming from California because we were inundated with all of these foreigners before most of you all were. We had the progressive agenda, God, 15 it's been like 15 years, almost 20 years ago. So I have some insight, and I was paying attention. Or not that I was paying attention, I just so happened to be in spaces where my career path took me, being the only Black person and being adjacent to all these foreigners and being invited to stuff. Like, I learned a lot. So I have a different point of view and insights than most people who sit online and talk about the white supremacy and the white people all day. I actually know them, and what I would like to let you know, and not that we're friends, I'm just saying I've worked extensively amongst all sorts of groups, but your ideas of these people is definitely a lot more lofty and elevated than the reality. And the truth of the matter is that we have a window of opportunity that we need to be exploiting. And a part of that is our name, image, and likeness, and making sure that we as a group are in solidarity. Like, the word I've been using for years is melanated immigrants. They are not Black immigrants. They are melanated immigrants. I put them in their place, and that way I don't have to tell people, black people, whether or not you black. Some people don't like the word black. I don't really care. But that's a word that's been fixed to us the same way Negro was. And for some people, Indian was. People don't like those words. Then some people want to be African Americans. I don't have time to placate to people's psychosis. You know, what you've seen with the Essence Fest and why I picked up that thing is because I wanted to talk about this identity theft. You know, other people are like, the Africans is hating on us, and it went to like this kind of a, I don't know, this kind of a simplistic point of view, the Africans versus, it was going the wrong way. The point is that these people are trying to erase Africanness. They're trying to erase their country of origin, take our identity, ratchet it up, mess it up, erase us, and then simultaneously build up their original name. So it's and I probably didn't even explain that right. It's late and I'm about to go to bed. But anyway, I wanted to just get this out. But yeah, anywho, let me wrap this up because then I'll be rambling. But anyway, thank you for listening. This has been a Glamorous Gazette report. If you have enjoyed my somewhat tangents and ramblings today, and hopefully my insight into this whole Chicago ICE thing, definitely let me know in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are. Are you afraid as a Black American that ICE is going to get you? Or if ICE does get you, do you feel like it's a small sacrifice to pay for like political inactivity? Or do you think that I'm off base on this? Or what are your thoughts on this issue? I don't think that we as Black people have had a real conversation, you know, since really the Chicago migrant crisis around this whole immigration thing and where we are. People are kind of, you know, moving around a bit. Not that you have to bare your soul, but your feedback is always wanted. So let us get it going and get it started in the comment section. And I will catch you on the next video. Make sure that you share the video, like, and subscribe to the channel.